All right. So I'm going to talk about the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, we've already spent so much time on other topics that well-deserved have that amount of time talked about them. But the Ottawa Senators...
This is the biggest news of the week.
This entire page for the video viewers.
I'm going to play a clip right now from last week's podcast where Neil basically calls me out.
Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
It was last week. It was episode 100.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'll just play the clip. So listen to this.
It's taken them a while, but it looks like they're finally taking the time to do it right.
Yep.
And we haven't talked about Melnyk in a while. Another great thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
You might have just jinxed it, though. Tomorrow we'll say something.
All right, so there's Neil saying, basically, I jinxed it. And I did, because if you're watching on YouTube right now, this is an entire page of notes about Eugene Melnyk.
Was it the same day that was, or later that day it was announced, or was it the next day?
No, it was a couple days after. I think it was like on a Tuesday or something like that. So Jim Little, who we talked about when he was hired, was fired as the CEO of the Ottawa Senators less than 2 months into his job, 54 days.
That was so recent ago. I can remember the conversation we had of whether you think he's going to change the culture.
Yeah, like, are you going to change his culture? He came from Royal Bank and stuff like that. Like, it was literally 2 months ago, or less than 2 months ago. So they said he was fired because of conduct inconsistent with the core values of the Ottawa Senators and the NHL. And they put out a really vague statement, not really offering any specific details on why he was fired. So then Jim Little came out on his own and released a statement saying that he was dismissed over a heated phone call he had on Valentine's Day of all days, February 14th, in which he swore at Eugene Melnyk, and he says the pair had a personal disagreement over his approach with the team. And then later the team came out and said that they expect to hire a new CEO within the coming weeks. So that was the news. And I was like, okay, that's really random.
Random.
And then on Thursday, Elliot Friedman went on Sportsnet 590, which is a radio station in Toronto, and he provided additional information. And then it was almost like he was getting heat for it, so he had it all redacted. So if you went online to look for this, the only way you could find it was like a cached image, because even the episode that aired on that radio station was deleted at Friedman's request. But then he went out on Hockey Night in Canada last night and basically reset everything all over again. So we'll talk about that. So
that's very interesting.
According to him, this is Elliot, the Senators completed a report that concluded that the franchise's biggest issue is a crisis of confidence in the owner. And that's what they were yelling about.
That's amazing.
So you've got a guy that's only been with your organization for 54 days. Well, less than 54 days, because this was on February 14th. So he's basically a little over a month into his job. And he's yelling at the owner saying, you are the biggest problem.
You have literally the best person in the organization to finally stand up against Melnyk, and does, and gets fired.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable.
So he said fans aren't voting with their wallets because they don't believe in the owner.
Mm-hmm.
So fans aren't coming because they don't like you.
Like,
that's what they were arguing about.
It's true. But what does Ottawa do now? Like, they had the guy there to stand up to Melnyk, and nothing happened.
Well, clearly Melnyk doesn't want that.
So it's never going to change. It's never going to change. And we're just going to sit here in this washer cycle of Melnyk being an idiot, and the Ottawa Senators not being competitive, and the fans not going to games.
So during the phone call, when Little was yelling at Melnyk, apparently he yelled at him for over 10 minutes. And at one point he told him the best thing that could happen to the Ottawa Senators is if you, who's Melnyk, disappeared for 12 months.
Which is true.
Yes. And like a lot of people online were like, did he mean 12 years instead? Like, clearly Ottawa fans don't want Melnyk there. So then that ended, and that was the latest update on the story. So, okay, this guy got fired for basically calling him out and telling him that he is the biggest problem and giving him, truth serum that he didn't want to hear.
Yeah.
Today, a National Post article came out. I don't know if you know about this.
No.
That's what 3/4 of this page is about.
Oh, snap.
So the team is now saying that he was fired after an investigation that uncovered several allegations of harsh or abusive behavior, including public claims of domestic abuse from his former wife.
Oh.
So it's like, wait a minute, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
So you've had this all done for a week.
Is this a smokescreen?
We're going to get into that. So Little has disputed the allegations through his lawyer, saying that once again he was fired mainly on the language he used in that phone call, saying that, I got heated with him. I shouldn't have done it. I apologize, but that's why I was fired. So after the phone call ended, the team began an investigation into him. So you know what this sounds like to me?
Wow.
It sounds like Melnyk didn't like how that phone call went down.
Yeah.
Go find dirt on this guy.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
So the team confirmed that it began an investigation into Little after that phone call and found that his former wife published online accounts alleging abusive behavior during their marriage on a blog post. So number one, obviously you didn't vet this guy very good.
Yeah.
Even after the league came out and said, if you don't vet your guys very good, we're going to
penalize you.
Yeah, because that was in December and this guy was just hired in January. So like, I don't understand that.
I don't understand either.
And then it says, this is another statement they came out with based on that investigation. It's the pattern of behavior by Mr. Little within the organization which violated the team's code of conduct and the policy of the NHL, coupled with the detailed allegations contained within an online posting discovered subsequently, was extremely concerning given his conduct within the company's head office. And then, so Little's lawyers came back out and says the suggestion that the Senators terminated Mr. Little's employment because of the allegations you described is untrue. Given the circumstances of our client's dismissal, these matters will now be addressed through the courts, which is litigation, which means he is suing the organization for
AKA
defamation, basically.
Melnick.
Yes.
So Melnick now has at least 2 litigations ongoing.
And no money, so even if they win, they're going to get nothing out of
Exactly.
it. So then the lawyer also said that the allegations published by his former wife are not attributed to any specific source and are defamatory. Given that the litigation is imminent, Mr. Little will not be making further public statements regarding these matters at this time. So if we look at this from a broad statement, he calls up Melnick. Melnick says something stupid. He gets mad at him. He yells at him for 10 minutes and says, this is the reason why we can't fill our stadium. So Ottawa's attendance is averaging 12,618 in the league, which is worst. But even worse is they're only filling on average 65.9% of their arena every night.
That's unfortunate.
So it's less than...
I believe that average attendance is less than the Quebec Grand Prix.
It's 2/3 of the arena. It's 65.9. The second worst team fills 81.1% of their arena.
Jeez.
So they're significantly below percentage-wise. So a lot, like a third of their rink every night on average is empty, not counting the tickets that are sold and the people aren't there. So
that's crazy.
Little goes on this call and says, you are the reason we're not getting season ticket holders. You're the reason that people aren't coming to the games. And Melnick just has no thick skin whatsoever. And as soon as that call's over, he's like, go get dirt on this guy. They go get dirt on it. And they find this dirt, even though they didn't find it when they were investigating him to hire him in the first place. Like, that's this just crazy. Is so bad. This makes him look so bad to me.
And he already looks so bad.
Like how do you, I feel so bad for Ottawa Senators fans. Like,
I can't even imagine. They can't do anything. That's the problem. They can't do anything.
They can't do anything.
They can stop going to games, but I mean, that's already happened. And they brought in someone to specifically address that issue. And then you fire him.
Yeah. And not only do you fire him, you dig up dirt on him and then put that dirt out publicly.
How does the NHL stand by and let this happen? That's what I want to know. Can the owners vote to, for the NHL to literally buy a franchise? I
think the other owners can do something about it if it gets to that point, but they're like a old boys club. They're all in it together. But if Melnick, there has to be a point that Melnick they have to have a conversation with him and say, listen, you need to step back. So Brian Burke was on Hockey Central on Friday, and he basically said the only way to fix this is to sell the team.
Absolutely. That's the only option. That's the only way.
But he doesn't want to sell it.
Because he's a stubborn old...
Yes. Who's got the thinnest skin. You can't have thin skin if you're that kind of millionaire, billionaire.
Yeah. Which, if Melnick said that he'd come in for an interview, would you ask him the hard questions? Or would you ask him regular questions because you know that he won't answer the hard questions and probably walk off?
Mm.
If you tried to ask him hard questions...
You have to ask him hard questions.
And he walked away from the interview and said, I'm done. Would you publish that footage?
Absolutely.
Me too. 100%. Absolutely. I feel so bad for Ottawa fans. I just don't get it.
We could make a video just on all the stupid stuff he's done.
That video would be 40 minutes long.
Yeah, remember when the outdoor game was there? He's like, yes. Oh, I might move the team if things don't get better.
Yeah.
Gary Bettman, that's the only time I've seen Gary Bettman get mad at him. Being like, what are you talking about? You are totally taking away from this outdoor game and putting the focus on you potentially selling this team or moving this team to a different city.
And look at the players that clearly don't want to play for Melnick or that organization. Carlson, gone. Pajot, gone. Duchesne, gone. Turris, gone. I mean, the list goes on of players who just don't want to be there, whether it's financial or just Melnick in general or the city, whatever. Clearly, players don't want to be there.
And that's what we just talked about last week, was we said things are finally looking up for Ottawa in the coming years.
Yeah.
They're doing things right. They got draft picks. They've got good players coming. And now you have this.
The trade deadline, I mean, the Ottawa Senators are one of the top 3 teams
Cleaned up.
in the trade deadline. And now we have this. Who's going to remember the trade deadline? Their success there? No one.
It's just so funny that I said, haven't heard anything about Melnick in a while. And you're like, you just jinxed it.
Yeah.
Now I have a full page of notes of unbelievable. I just had a conversation with a guy just hired 54 days ago, or even less than that. I guess there would have been like 40 some days. Go find dirt on this guy. I want him out of here.
And if the cap goes up, are they going to be able to meet the floor? I don't just for fun. I'm going to go tell you a little bit about their lineup.
Okay.
Bodiger is a UFA. Tierney, UFA. Connor Brown, RFA. Duclair, RFA. Pekka, UFA. Hainsey, UFA. England, UFA. Anderson, UFA. And there's 3 more RFAs and 1 UFA after that. That is like 75% of your team.
That's a lot of work.
Those players 50% of those players could all be gone. Are you going to be able to sign free agents in June? What happens if literally no players want to play for Ottawa? What do they do to make the roster of games? They have to call up their entire minor league team? Can they do that?
So I think Pierre Dorian's the GM in Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
How much of a nightmare is his job?
Oh God, I can't even imagine. When he's done there, and it will happen, whether it's by his choice or not. I hope he is 100%. So truthful with his post interviews.
He needs to write a book.
He needs to write 8.
Like, man, you got a stingy owner who, like I said, just thin skinned, can't take criticism, doesn't want to pay.
It's really unfortunate.
Like, how do you build a team with that ownership and that lack of money? And you've got an arena in a place that fans don't like going to.
And it's not like we're sitting here making up hearsay or whatever. We're talking about legitimate, published information on all accounts, all the stories that we just talked about. What don't we know? What's still under the carpet that we don't know about yet and will eventually?
I wonder what happens when this goes to court and they start...
All that's going to be public information.
Yeah.
At some point.
So I didn't include the statements that his wife made on purpose because his lawyers asked the National Post to not run those statements.
Yes.
And they did anyway. So out of respect for the legal process, we don't need to know that. We just need to know that she alleged abuse and living with him was a nightmare and et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to find out more about that, just Google it. I'm sure you can find it. It's on the National Post. But I don't know. That's just crazy. I can't get over it.